So now we need to actually apply this skill. So to start with, we're actually going to work backwards. We're going to consider an existing solution. And from that, we're going to derive some of the elements and components and features of that application and understand what they are and how they interconnect. And after we've completed this decomposition of an existing solution to get an idea how this works, then we're actually going to take a problem and we're going to develop from the problem itself the features, components, and elements that are associated with that problem that need some type of solution or implementation later on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reverse engineer the solution to the problem instead of going from the problem to the solution, which is the way we normally work in this course. And we will work when we create things. So we're going to look at Instagram, which is a solution. And we're going to analyze Instagram, and from the solution, which is Instagram, we're going to get an idea what features, components, and elements are. So to do that, we're just going to look at a couple of screens, and we're just going to see what's there. And we're going to break it down into kind of a mind map. So if I just briefly look at some of the screens of Instagram, we've got this main feed. I've got the Reels, which is the video, which they've brought out kind of to compete with TikTok. And then we have the shop. So really, I'm going to say Instagram has three main features. It's got a main feed, which is kind of the core of the program, where I get to interact and see what other people are doing. I've got the video sharing, which is Reels, and the shop. So they're going to be my main features, okay? So I'm going to have the Reels. I'm going to have the main feed. And I'm going to have the shop. Okay. And now I'm just going to start breaking these down. So let's have a look at, let's look at the shop since it's selected. So what do I have in the shop? On the shop, there's a number of different components, really. I've got this kind of this shopping cart. So there's actually some type of transaction. So I would call it shopping cart. I've got a search component, search bar, and we'll get back to that shortly. I've got this kind of selector, or we'll call it a selector or a filter, where I can narrow down or change the things that is in the list of shops, which I've got the list of shops. And after the list of shops, I have the menu. And the menu actually is common to all of them. So I'm actually just going to split that off by itself, actually. We've got the menu, and that's on all pages. That's the nav bar. Okay, so now my shop, it's got these different features. It's got, the shop's a feature, but it's got these different components. So maybe I can break these components down into their smallest possible different pieces. So I've got the shopping cart. Now, what's the shopping cart consist of? Well, it's got this title. So I'm looking at this top bar here of the screen, shop, and there's a burger bar, the menu. I've got the title, which is the shop. I have the cart itself, which I presume takes me somewhere else. So there might be some type of navigation after that. And then I have the menu bar, which I don't actually know what else it does. Is there anything else up there? Nope. Okay, in the search. Now in the search, I've actually got a search bar. The search bar has the magnifying glass. And the reason they've used that is it's common. Everyone uses a magnifying glass. Everyone knows we're looking, is searching. And also I got the placeholder text. Okay, now moving now to the selector. It's some type of it's called a carousel. Okay, when you can swipe left and right, it's called a carousel. So I'm going to call it a carousel. And on the carousel, I have boxes. So it's a carousel of boxes. And in each box, there's the icon or the image, and it also has the title text. Okay, and the list of shops. Now, the list of shops, what do I know about that? It's set up in it's a grid formation. In the grid, and each grid has a whole heap of boxes. And in each box we have a square image. And under the square image we have the text, the title text. I guess it's the shop name or something. There's also some type of, generally there's an icon with text above it in the thing as well. So we've got an icon with, I guess we'll call it a username, for want of a better word. And so that's my shop feature, and it's got 4 components, and I've broken those down into the different elements. Now I could do the same for the reels, or the main feed, but you should be able to get the idea how to do that. I'll leave that as an exercise for you. Now I could go a bit further here, actually. Now that I've kind of broken this down, I could actually go into more detail. I could start thinking about, because what I've really been doing here, what have I really been doing? I've really just been looking at this particular solution. I've been thinking about the things that I see, the things that are self-evident on the screen that are part of the user interface. So I've really been breaking down the user interface for the shop screen. But I can add other things to this as well, because there will be other things behind this that are going on. There'd have to be some type of programming thing and some type of data. And so I can start thinking about those. So I would have to have, in the carousel of boxes or the selector of filter, I would have to somehow have a list of different categories. I'd have to access that somehow. I don't know if that would be in a database or if that's fixed somewhere. I'd have to have some type of programming to update the list of shops when a new filter is selected. Okay, so when I click one of these, I have to have somehow, it's got to update this list of shops and change them. So I've kind of started to get towards a bit of data here, some programming. With the programming, I guess I would have to have some way of making sure you can't scroll too far. So when I get to the end, it doesn't let me scroll off into nothingness. So it might be some type of programming thing or user interface thing. What else could I have here? Well, in the search bar, so as well as these user interface things, I'm going to have some type of way of determining the user has finished their input. And then I'm somehow going to have to process the user input and come up with an answer to get a new list of shops. Once again, I'm going to have to update the list of shops. So there's some programming things and some data, but if you're just looking closely, you can say, hang on, let's just do some pattern recognition. Let's do some computational thinking while we're doing this. Hang on, we've got to update the list of shops here on some input, really. We've got to update the list of shops here on some input. So really, these two things are almost the same. So maybe, I don't know if I can do it here. Insert link. I can link those two things together. Because those two things are really, they're just doing the same thing. There's a connection here. So maybe I could symbolize that better or somehow, but that'll do for now. It just reminds me those two things are kind of the same. So that's how I can start to decompose an existing solution in terms of the features And then I can start to think a little bit more deeply about what might be going on behind the scenes and develop some connections between the programming and the data that is in the system.